Okay, so previously we did 11.1, which was the addition principle. Now we're going to look at the multiplication principle. So it's very similar, except instead of addition, we're going to be looking at multiplication. So again, just like before, whenever you have an equation with the equal sign, we're going to be trying to find the value of x. So first thing I'm going to ask is, what is the opposite of multiplication? Opposite of multiplication is division. So then the opposite of division is, of course, multiplication. So just like the addition principle, you're going to look at the your equation and determine which operation is connected to the variable in the equation, and then perform the opposite operation. So this one, 4x equals 8, this actually reads 4 times x equals 8. So that means this is multiplication happening. So the only way we can get x, to figure out what that number is for x, is to do the opposite of multiplication, which is to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by what's being multiplied by x. So we said 4 times x, so that means I need to divide by 4 on both sides. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, so that leaves me with 1x equals 8 divided by 4 is 2. And just like before, we should check. So if I put 2 in place of x, I have 4 times 2 equals 8. And yes, that is true. Okay, on this side, I have x divided by 2 equals 5. So this one's division. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So if I divided by 2, I need to multiply by 2 on both sides. So again, 2 divided by 2 is still 1, leaves me with 1x equals 5 times 2 is 10. And double check this. So 10, I put it in place of x, 10 divided by 2 is in fact 5. Okay, so let's look at some examples on page 463. These are just like the ones in 11.1, except for, again, instead of addition and subtraction, we're looking at multiplication and division. So if I'm looking at number 5, this says 9 times x equals 72, or you can even read it 9 times what number equals 72. The easiest way to do it, again, this is multiplication, so I'm going to divide both sides by the number in front of x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 9. So then 9 divided by 9 is 1, that's 1. X equals 72 divided by 9 is 8. Check your work. 8 times 9 is 72, so this is correct. Okay, these kinds of problems seem to trip people up sometimes, so let's look at this. This says negative x, or you can rewrite this and think negative 1 times x equals 17. Let me erase that equal sign. It got a little wild and crazy over there. So if I'm multiplying x by negative 1, what do I have to divide x by in this type of problem? Negative 1. I divide by exactly what's there. So far we've only seen them when they're positive numbers in front of x. Even if it's a negative number, we're going to divide by a negative. So then we get x equals, because negative 1 divided by negative 1 is a positive 1. Remember, 2 negatives when we divide gives us a positive. 17 divided by negative 1 gives me a negative 17. Okay, so let's check. This says the opposite of x. So if x is negative 17, what's the opposite of negative 17? Well, this is that double negative situation, and it gives us positive 17, which is where we started. So x equals 17 is the correct answer. Okay, so let's look at, see if they have over here, oh look, some division problems. Okay, so we have number 11. A number divided by negative 7 equals 9. So this is division, so we're going to multiply both sides by negative 7. Because it was divided by negative 7, so we're going to keep our same sign. We're going to multiply the 9 by negative 7. So negative 7 divided by negative 7 is positive 1. So we're going to have 1n equals 9 times 7 is 63. But we have one negative, so we're going to say negative 63. Again, check. Negative 63 divided by negative 7, so that's a negative divided by negative, does give me a positive 9. So that's correct. Okay, let's look at number 13. We have 4/5 x equals negative 20. This is multiplication, correct? 4/5 times x is negative 20. When I have a fraction out front, I need to remember how to divide, because this would be divided by 4/5. When you divide fractions, you actually flip and multiply. So I'm going to actually multiply by 5/4 on both sides. So this would give me 20/20, or 1x, equals, on this side, I could put my 20/1 just so I have two fractions. I can simplify first, or I can multiply and then simplify. I prefer to simplify first. So 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 20 5 times, and that's still negative up there. So I have negative 5 times 5 divided by 1, so this is going to be negative 25. So 4/5 of negative 25 is negative 20. You would have to multiply this out. 4/5 times 4/5, and you would get back to negative 20. This is the correct answer. So let's do one more fraction. Let's do number 16. So I have negative 3/4 times a equals 9/16. Again, remember this is multiplication, so we have to divide, but because it's a fraction, we're actually going to multiply. I'm going to write this one a little bit different. I'm going to multiply the entire equation by negative 4/3. So we need to flip our fraction when we multiply. Because I'm multiplying by the reciprocal, I know I'm going to be left with a. The 3/4 times 4/3 will give me just an a. And then I have 9/16 times 4/3. Again, I'm going to simplify first. So 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 16 4 times. So I have 3/4 times negative 1, so this gives me negative 3/4. And you could do your multiplication. That says 3. To check it, 3/4 times 3/4 is 9/16, and negative times negative is a positive. Okay, so this is 11.2. So this is your homework for 11. This is your examples for your homework for 11.2.